All right, let's just get right into it. Companies are pouring, literally billions of dollars into artificial intelligence. But there's this huge question bubbling up in boardrooms everywhere. Where is the actual return on all that cash? What we're seeing is this massive gap opening up between the companies that are just, playing around with AI and the very few that are getting real, measurable value from it.
So let's make this personal for a second. Think about your own organization. We're pretty deep into the AI era now. You've probably invested in it, maybe you've run a few pilot programs. But if you had to, could you point to a real significant impact on your bottom line? For a lot of people, the answer is a really frustrating not yet, or not really.
And look, if that's you, you are definitely not alone. Some research from Boston Consulting Group paints a really stark picture here. A staggering 60% of companies are considered laggards. They're getting almost no material value from all their AI efforts. And then, way over on the other end of the spectrum, you've got this tiny 5%, the future built, and they are absolutely crushing it, just generating these huge returns.
And we're not talking about a small gap here. This is a huge, rapidly widening divide. The winners aren't just a little bit ahead, they are pulling away from the pack at a frankly terrifying pace. And this is why. It's all about momentum. The future-built companies, they create this incredible virtuous cycle. So they get value from an AI project, they take those gains and they reinvest them into even better technology and smarter talent, which, you guessed it, generates even more value. It just snowballs. Meanwhile, the laggards are totally stuck in a vicious cycle, struggling to justify more spending because they can't show any results to begin with.
So, what is trapping that 60%? Why do so many promising AI initiatives just never make it out of the lab? Let's take a look at some of the most common pitfalls.
Well, it often comes down to something that's been called pilot program theater. It looks like you're innovating, but really, it's all for show and it's going nowhere. And this happens for a bunch of reasons. Sometimes the data is just a mess, or you don't have the right technical skills on the team. A really common one is a total disconnect between what the tech team is building and what the business actually needs. But honestly, the two biggest killers are these last two, failing to prove a real solid business case and having absolutely no clear plan to scale up beyond a cool little experiment.
Okay, enough about the problem, right? Let's flip this around and look at how the winners, that top 5%, are actually getting it done. We're going to run through some incredible real-world examples.
Let's start with this number, $75 million. That is the annual savings that Walmart was able to achieve.
So how'd they do it? Well, they didn't try to boil the ocean. They used their in-house AI to solve one very specific, very expensive problem, optimizing their massive supply chain and all their truck routes. It was a concrete problem with concrete savings. Simple as that.
All right, next up, 60%. And this is a huge reduction in a super critical metric for a company like BMW.
What they did was they deployed AI-powered computer vision right there on their assembly lines. The system spots tiny scratches, misalignments, you name it, all in real time. This made their core quality control process way faster and a whole lot more accurate.
How about this one? 360,000. And we're not talking dollars here. We're talking hours.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of over 40 years of manual work that JPMorgan Chase now saves every single year. They have a system called Coin, and it just automates the incredibly tedious review of complex legal loan agreements. That frees up their highly paid legal teams for much higher value strategic work. That's a direct impact on the bottom line.
11 years. Think about that. That is how long this next task would have taken a single person to complete. So CarMax used generative AI to go through over 100,000 customer reviews and summarize them into these easy-to-read highlights for shoppers on their website. A project that was just manually impossible became a reality in just a few months. It completely transformed their customer experience.
Okay, our last example really shows the power of massive scale. The number here is 15 million.
That's how many predictions Shell's AI makes every single day. It's monitoring 10,000 global assets, pumps, compressors, the whole shebang, to predict when a piece of equipment might fail before it happens. This prevents incredibly costly downtime, and more importantly, it increases safety. This right here is what thinking beyond the pilot really looks like.
Okay, so what do all these amazing success stories have in common? I mean, it's not magic, right? It turns out they all follow a pretty clear playbook.
And here it is. First, they go after specific, expensive problems, not vague, fuzzy ones.
This guarantees a clear business case from day one. Second, it all starts with great data, because any AI is only as good as the data you feed it. Garbage in, garbage out. Third, they use AI to augment their human experts, to make them better, not to replace them. This gets buy-in and leads to way better results. Fourth, they measure everything. They have to prove a clear ROI, which is exactly how you justify more investment. And finally, and this is so crucial, they plan for full-scale deployment from the very beginning, which is how they avoid that dreaded pilot trap.
You know, when you boil all this down, there's one simple, really powerful idea that ties everything together. It's the one thing that separates success from failure.
And here it is. Successful AI is business-led, it is not technology-led. The winners don't start by asking, hey, what can we do with this cool new piece of tech? No, they start by asking, what is our biggest, hairiest business problem, and how can AI help us solve it? The strategy absolutely has to come first.
So as we wrap this up, the takeaway is pretty clear. That gap between the AI leaders and the laggards, it's growing every single day. And it's being driven by that powerful, virtuous cycle of success and reinvestment. The playbook for how to win is out there. So the only real question left is, which side of that divide is your organization going to be on?